A rousing final State of the Union address from President Barack Obama with a tremendous amount of platitudes, a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts for the future. A good speech, but a lot of holes for criticism as well. So let's get to it and talk about exactly what the president just said. I'm Ed Berliner. Welcome back to our special coverage here on Newsmax. Thank you so much for watching us. We are now waiting for the Republican response from South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley. Let's get to our panel, though, right away. Joining me here in studio is veteran political analyst Dick Morris. And then joining us in New York right now, Steve Malzberg and Rick Unger. Dick, I'm going to come to you for the first moment and your initial thoughts on exactly what the president said.
I think it was a very good speech. I think he did a fine job. I think it's the first time that I've seen him as president be the same character that ran for president in 2008. Someone who rises above political divisions and has an honest conversation with us about what's going on. Avoids the applause lines. When I used to write State of the Union speeches, you'd write a paragraph, a one-sentence paragraph, then you'd have applause. Another one, applause. Another one, applause. This was not a series of applause lines. This was a reasoned and measured discussion of the problems facing America. There's a lot in it that I don't agree with. There's a lot in it that I think was inaccurate, and I'll be happy to go through that after the Republican address.
Which we will.
But I do feel that this was a departure from the style that he's had before. It goes back to the style he had hoped to bring to Washington and did not. In many cases, he spoke of ideals that he himself led the nation in violating, partisan divide and stuff like that. But I think it was one hell of a speech.
All right, Rick Unger, I'm going to come to you and ask you what you did not hear. What did you want the president to say that perhaps he didn't put in this speech? Anything?
Well, first, I mean, it's a wonderful night. I get to agree with Dick Morris. He summed that up absolutely beautifully, and I agree with him. It's not something I wanted to hear, but I was absolutely stunned that we never heard the word guns in the entire speech. I think that was very smart. And I was particularly pleased because I had been disturbed about that seat the president set aside for gun victims, thinking that that would swamp the entire speech, because if you're a mother against drug drivers, you go, where's my seat? Or if you believe abortion is killing babies, you go, where's my seat? So leaving that out, I think, was incredibly smart, a great, I think, last minute decision. But that is the one thing I was very surprised that we didn't hear anything about guns.
Steve Malzberg, let's bring you into this one right now, because I tell you what, I heard a lot of things. I didn't, and I agree, we didn't hear anything about guns. I thought it was very light on immigration. He certainly stayed away from that. There were a lot of things that the president, he did not, exactly. But then again, in many ways, there's a lot of things he left out here, Steve, but that might have been very smart considering exactly what this was supposed to be, a rousing farewell to the nation.
Well, you know, did you know that he helped get Osama bin Laden? I didn't know that Osama bin Laden was dead. It's silly me. But, you know, ISIS, again, he described them as a JV team. A bunch of guys in pickup trucks who really can't do us much harm. I mean, tell that to the San Bernardino people and the others who have been victimized by ISIS here in this country and around the world. And at the end, Dick was right on target when he brought up, you know, the divisiveness. He says it doesn't work if we think the people who disagree with us are all motivated by malice or that political opponents are unpatriotic. He's the one who started it. He's divided this country more than anybody else that sit in the White House has done since I've ever been on the political scene. And again, touting the Iran deal without acknowledging that not only are 4 prisoners being held there and have been held there for years, but now tonight 10 sailors, American sailors, are being held in Iran, I think is a disgraceful moment.
We do have to point out, though, Steve,
trouble topping that.
Let's point out, I think you're exactly right on some points here with regard to Iran, but let's point out that the Iranians say that everything will be taken care of tomorrow and the sailors will be released tomorrow. I agree. And again, you are exactly right in taking the laughter, because certainly people, we still have to wonder if Iran is our friends. We certainly get the answers every single day. But Rick, let me throw it to you then. Did the president then misstep by not pointing out that Iran has taken what could be considered by many to be an aggressive step against the United States when it could have been very tamped down? This could have gone away within an hour or two, but instead they have drawn this out and made this an issue.
Well, I don't know if it could have gone away in an hour or two, but as I said before the speech started, I am absolutely shocked that he simply pretended it didn't happen or chose not to mention it in any way, shape, or form. I do want to say this, though, to be fair. There's an entire section I'm looking at here in the speech where he made it very clear that ISIS poses a threat to us. What he said is that it's not an existential threat, and he's right, because as much damage, and he referred to that damage, that ISIS can do to us, they are not going to bring down the United States of America.
But again, Rick, he said there are a bunch of guys in pickup trucks driving around.
Well, they are.
Yeah, well, that's great. So you can't have it both ways. Either he's serious about it, and by the way, I didn't know it was the Congress's fault that we haven't destroyed them yet. We need Congress to authorize him to use force against ISIS on one hand. On the other hand, he's telling you all the force he's used against ISIS. So I don't get that.
He said at one point that we don't have to build up ISIS to justify acting against them. Well, we do have to build up ISIS to convince you that they're a problem.
We do want to point out, too, and again, what he did say in this was, we just need to call them what they are, killers and fanatics who have to be rooted out, hunted down, and destroyed. So he did take that.
Yeah,
but, Steve, that was after the comment that you made, of course.
Terrorists. He left out Islamic terrorists. That's what they are.
The one thing in there that caught me was where he said they do not threaten our national existence.
Well,
I think the word existence there is something that he was trying to say. It's a broad thing for generational sake. But I think in that he is wrong. It is indeed. He is, Dick. It is indeed threatening our national security and then our national existence.
I think that you could easily see a situation where Al Qaeda attacks and ISIS attacks again and again and again, and they are doing it almost daily. The shooting in Pennsylvania, the policemen, and all of that.
Well, which we don't know if it actually is connected to ISIS. There's no proof whatsoever that it's really connected to ISIS.
You guys don't have much faith in America and in Americans.
Rick, can I finish?
That's not going to do that.
He shouted Allah Akbar before he shot the cop. But I think that I could see a situation where you have so many of these that Americans are daily afraid for their lives, and that people consider that before they go out, consider that at shopping malls, consider that in various centers. I think the people of Paris are there already, and I think the people of America could be, and that is a threat to our national existence, not in the sense of a nuclear weapon yet.
Rick, get to what you were saying about
the Paris are not there.
Hold on, Rick, get back to what you were saying about the national existence. You said not having a lot of faith in the American people.
Yeah, it's just, first of all, it's not true. I have a niece who lives in Paris. I talk to her every day to find out what's going on there. The Parisians aren't chickens either. They're standing up and they're going about their lives. And you know what? Americans are tougher than anybody. Yes, these are terrible things that happen. What happened in San Bernardino, go on and on. They're awful. But you know what? You guys may think that that'll bring down America. I know that my country is way too damn tough.
The head of the Homeland Security Committee said today that there's a chance that he worries about attacks on the Mall on America. Yeah. He worries about attacks at the Oscars and Disney on Main Street, unleashing smallpox into the air. That would bring us way, way down.
I want to just go through a couple of things that he said in the speech, because I was yelling back at the TV, and now I can say it.
Well, now you can go ahead and yell at the rest of us. Go ahead.
He talked about all the great job growth. The fact is, the number of hours that Americans are working is precisely the same as when he took office. All those new jobs are simply dividing one job into two others. I'm seeing a gesture. Does this mean that you're...
No. You're going right over here on this camera.
Sure.
Rick, you're over here.
He said that he cut the deficit. The only reason he did that was sequester that the Republicans jammed through over his dead body. He said that we should recruit great teachers. Well, not if the union gets them fired under a last-in, first-fired rule as they have during his presidency. He said that we need 2 years of free community college. We have 2 years of free community college. Bill Clinton passed it. I wrote the speech. The only reason they're not free now is the state legislatures have cut back their funding so much that now they have to impose tuition. Talk to your fellow Democrats in the state legislature about that. He talked about 18 million new people covered by health insurance. That should be 5 million. The rest are under welfare, Medicaid, same old program, just expanding the dole. He said that immigrants aren't the reason that wages don't rise. Baloney. Foreign-born Americans have had their wages rise significantly more, like 4 times faster than native-born Americans have. He said renewable energy is doing great. Baloney. It's 5% of the national electric power grid generation. He said there's less carbon, and he said that we've cut carbon. The reason we've done it is fracking, which he opposed and tried to kill. He said that we don't need to build up ISIS. Well, we did need to build it up to get your attention, Mr. President. So, I mean, too much partisanship. You're the guy that reformed the laws so it passes with 60 votes, and you're the guy that jammed through Obamacare on Christmas Eve with a solid, straight-line partisan vote. So don't come back crying to us about partisanship.
All right, Rick, your turn.
Yeah, I was listening. Many things that Dick said, I actually agree with. The one that kind of caught my attention and I got stuck on, you're absolutely right, Dick. The 2 years of community college are supposed to be free, and you're absolutely right that it's state legislators that have made that impossible. Why in the world would you say, look to the Democrats, when you know as well as anybody that we haven't had as many Republican-controlled state legislatures in my lifetime, and I'm an old guy.
Point well taken.
I don't know why you would say that.
Rick's right.
Point well taken that he's an old guy. No, you know what?
Careful
really
now, Steve. You don't know what you're dealing
said,
with here and the rest of us now. There's 4 of us on the set, brother. You better be real careful, all right?
First of all, notice he said, as he always does, and he has said this many times over his career, Republicans walk up to him, in the hall, wherever he goes, and says, gee, I wish I could work with you, but it's my base. I won't get reelected. Could you imagine Republicans coming up to him and saying that? But also, he said, and this year, I plan to lift up the many businesses who figured out that doing the right thing by their workers ends up being good for the shareholders, the customers, and the communities. Picking winners, picking losers, favoring certain businesses, that's dangerous talk, and he's good at that.
Yeah, but there's, and if I can just, Steve and I were talking about this during the speech. I had a very different interpretation of that line, because one of the things you see when you go back to the time in our history where we started financing businesses largely with public money, when we went to the public markets, it very much correlates when we start to see the stagnation of income. Why? Because where workers were once important in our structure, shareholders became the #1 item on the list in terms of importance, because the shareholders gave them the money to
but how's he going to lift them up?
We're about to hear the Republican rebuttal by Nikki Haley, the governor of South Carolina.
Well, we haven't gotten the announcement yet that she's coming up soon,
and I just want to say the importance of this. This is an audition for her. If Hillary is the Democratic nominee, there is a broad consensus in the Republican Party that we should have a woman as the vice president. And there are 2 women being considered, Carly Fiorina and Nikki Haley. And this is an audition you're about to watch.
Well, we've watched auditions before with these responses that have not gone very well, as a matter of fact. But let me also bring this up. There are people saying that Nikki Haley could balance out a ticket if Donald Trump does indeed become the nominee. Dick, why would Nikki Haley want to become vice president under Donald Trump?
It's about half the vice presidents since World War II have become presidents.
All right. You agree with that, Steve?
I would say if she's offered that opportunity, she's going to grab it. I don't think she's going to say, I disagree with Donald Trump on this or that. I think she'll all of a sudden start agreeing with him more and more. I thought maybe Suzanne Martinez, Dick probably knows better than I, but I thought Suzanne Martinez might be up there as well.
I'm assuming in this, which is wrong, that Cruz or Rubio would be the nominee. With Trump, Martinez may make some sense.
So, but if indeed...
Martinez did herself some harm in the past couple weeks.
No, but I think Nikki Haley, she's a great story. Yeah. As long as she doesn't take a sip of water or sweat a little bit on her brow, I think she'll have a good shot.
Well, but if you look at it, it's a smart move by the Republicans. 43 years of age. She's the youngest serving governor in the country. She is a female. She also is the child of immigrants. Yeah. She has Sikh-born parents. She is exactly what the Republican Party needs in order to prove to people, at least to come out and say that we are a party of inclusion, that we are a party that has other people here. They haven't had that before. They tried that with Bobby Jindal, but let's be real honest. Bobby Jindal came out when he did his response, and he failed miserably, lost everything right there in one shot.
But, one of the things in that speech that I hated the most...
is right on the money with her.
One of the things I hated the most about that speech is when he said, we're all Americans. We're not black, we're not Latino, we're not gay. The very master of electoral segmentation is Barack Obama, who has governed for 6 years, with a 40% approval rate, and hasn't given a damn because all of his base
shut down. We got to go ahead. Here's Nikki Haley and the Republican response. Let's go live now to South Carolina.